Hi, friends. Welcome to Really Famous. This is a special episode. It's my interview with Peter Scolari from 2017 when Really Famous was brand new. And Peter joined me for a really deep conversation. It was a really special conversation. And I remember after it was over, he gave me a big hug that was just so warm and genuine and touching. I didn't know him that well, but just that hour or two that I spent with him really gave me the feeling that he was just such a truly genuine, thoughtful, caring, loving human being. Peter died on Friday morning from cancer. Hi, this is Kara Mayer Robinson. This is Really Famous, where I invite super talented, dynamic people to sit down and have a real conversation with me so I can get a feel for who they really are and what they really think about things. Sometimes it's like two old friends getting together over coffee. Other times it's like listening into a therapy session. My guest today is Peter Scolari. Peter Scolari is an actor who has been acting for decades, and he just won his first Emmy last year for his role in the HBO series Girls. He played Hannah's dad, Tad Horvath. When I think of Peter Scolari, I also think of the show Bosom Buddies, the 1980s sitcom where he starred with Tom Hanks. That was the beginning of Peter's career, and it was also the beginning of a long and special friendship with Tom Hanks. So Peter is in a new film. It's called Wait, and the filmmaker Rob Margulies popped over to the studio as well. And then Peter and I sit down for a conversation that touches on quite a lot. His friendship with Tom Hanks and his friendship with Bob Newhart. And then we get into some really serious topics, including Peter's history with drugs and alcohol. And he opens up about his mental health and gets very analytical. And then later we turn back to his career. We talk about Girls, and he reflects on his career ups and downs. His son Keaton came along. He's 18 and likely going to be a professional actor himself. Peter and I sat down and got cozy on the couch. Keaton was there too. And here we are talking about how to pronounce his name.
Scolari.
Scolari. Can I say it without a little Italian?
Scolari is Italiano.
So what's the story of the last name?
My father dodged his Italian-American sort of history, genealogy after World War II, coming back from World War II, having been in the Navy. You know, Italy was part of the Axis power, so nobody wanted to be Italian-American. So, but growing up in Scarsdale, New York, my brothers and sister and I became the Scolaris.
Scolari.
Scolari. Nobody bothered with, this.
But why Scolari? Who would say that? I feel like that's not, I don't think I would think of Scolari.
Somewhere, when I sort of eased into a pronunciation that I felt neither leaned too heavily on the Italian-American nor on the, sort of neighborhood quick pronunciation of Scolari or Scolari. It was Scolari. Scolari is how most of my relatives, my cousins, first cousins and aunts and uncles all pronounced it that way. So I adopted that. Scolari it is. I think my brother Art, just slightly younger than I think he's a Scolari. My son, who's sitting here with us, Keaton, says Scolari, don't you?
Hi, Keaton.
Hello.
So you want to say your name for everybody?
Keaton Scolari.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good when he says it.
It does sound good.
It sounds a little strange when to my ear. It sounds a little strange.
You're just too used to saying it your way. Yeah. But when you hear people saying your name, they're not usually saying it the way that you say it.
No, again, off pod. I'm coining a phrase that I think is going to catch.
I like off pod.
Catch like wildfire. We talked about Tom Hanks saying nice things about me, as he is wont to do sometimes, on I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes, it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Last year where he called me Scolari.
Yes, he did. Scolari.
Yeah.
And that threw me for a loop when I saw that. I said, oh, it's Scolari.
You could, if you play 6 degrees of separation with me, you can connect to almost anyone in the 20th century with 2 or 3 moves. Because I've worked not just with Tom Hanks, who's worked with everyone, but I worked with George C. Scott on a TV movie in the 1980s, which connects me to Peter Sellers in one move.
To a whole other group of people.
For Dr. Strangelove. I worked with Jose Ferrer on, and Leslie Caron, you know, in television in the 1980s. So you can get anywhere so fast.
So you're more than Kevin Bacon. It really should be a game about you.
I'd give him a run, you know, in terms of connectivity.
So who is one that you're connected to, but not directly, so not 1 degree? Or I guess there's one, what, if there's you, then someone you acted with, and then somebody else, then there's 1 degree of separation, I guess? Or is it, that's the 2nd degree?
I think that's 2. I think 1
It's
degree
2
is 1
degrees?
move, yeah.
But then isn't it 1 degree of separation?
But it's 6 degrees of separation.
Okay.
Is how the game
So then
is.
you follow, you go 6 steps.
You can get anywhere in 2 or 3 moves. with
Anywhere
me.
in 2 or 3.
Just
So
about.
who's 2 or 3 that really excites you? That you think is pretty cool?
Great! What a great question. Humphrey Bogart in 2 moves. Jose Ferrer playing the prosecuting naval attorney in The Caine Mutiny, and there's Bogart on the stand being cross-examined by Jose, you know, with the marbles in his hand in the brilliant last scene of the movie.
So there's really a lot of these
Oh,
guys
my goodness,
who
can you
you're.
imagine? And Jose Ferrer played my father-in-law on the Newhart Show in the 1980s and 90s, and befriended me.
Much to your surprise,
I'm still shocked. He's long gone. I'm still shocked.
he just saw something in you that he liked.
He did. He really did.
Did you feel the same back?
Well, it took me it took me a while to accept his graciousness, and I mean, because I remember when Ferrer was first on the show on Newhart, and I was rehearsing with him. I just couldn't concentrate. You know, he was speaking with that incredible baritone, and then I took my friend Tom Poston, may he also rest in peace, who was a regular George Utley, the handyman on the Newhart Show, and I took him aside and I said, I can't act with this guy. I can't concentrate. He speaks and I'm just, you know, stunned. And he said, well, tell him. So I went up to Ferrer and I said, Mr. Ferrer. And he said, call me Joe. And I said, well, no, I can't. I don't think I'm ready for that. And I said, I'm having trouble acting with you. And he said, really? Why? And I said, because when you speak, you know, every time, you know, he could be saying pass the broccoli, and it's pass the broccoli. It's this incredible thing. I said, when you speak, I'm back in the Caine Mutiny. I'm back in Cyrano. I'm back in with you playing Toulouse-Lautrec. And he said, oh, can I curse on a podcast?
Please be my guest.
All right. Oh, fuck that. And call me Joe. And I called him Joe. In the years, you know, that followed, he got my phone number once from Tom Poston to call me and congratulate me on something he had seen me do. I was on the Today Show in the late 1980s, and I came off, you know, the set with Bryant Gumbel, and somebody came up, some stage manager came up and said, there's a man on the phone for you in the makeup room. He says he's Jose Ferrer. And I said, oh, it is. I know, it's crazy,
it's true.
but it really is him. And he, you know, he was at the Players Club or somewhere. I said, come join me for breakfast. I enjoyed you with Bryant today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Bob Newhart, what about him? Did you have a special relationship? I thought I read that you did, but I may have been mistaken.
I really did. I have never spoken about it.
You've never spoken about that?
Not
Where would I
really.
have gotten that from?
No, I mean, not in any detail.
Okay.
You know, just that he likes, you know, we like each other and we have a nice association. But we really ran sort of there was a concurrent development of affection. I am at a loss often to imagine what anyone sees in me, but I can tell you what I saw in him, which was, a guy who was really complicated and did not suffer fools gladly. He was always a gracious man, but he would confide in me. I must have played 30 rounds of golf with him in my time there, my 7 years at the Newhart Show, because Tom Poston got me into that godforsaken game of golf, and Bob picked it up and started taking me out to play with him on Mondays after we would read a script and go home. You want to come out to Bel Air Country Club? Oh, okay. And later he sponsored me as a junior member at Bel Air Country Club. I don't play golf anymore. I have no money left. But I have these fond memories. And I saw Bob at the Emmys, not this past Emmys, but a year ago. And I was nominated in his category, guest actor in a comedy series. And we were backstage reuniting. I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. And he said, Pete, you can win this year. I'm okay with that. I already have one. And I knew that he really, in his way, which wasn't exactly cryptic, but was nuanced. You had to get to know Bob over time to know how he really felt about some things. Sometimes, he would be sarcastic and funny and teasing, and you would know how he felt. Other times he would say things that were so, not many people got to penetrate that way.
So you said, it's so weird because you said you don't know what Jose Ferrer would have seen in you, but a lot of people see things in you.
Yes.
So, and Tom Hanks is another one who keeps trying to say something nice about you every time.
You can't shut
every
him
time
up.
there's a microphone around, right? So
get it.
there's something special there too.
Yeah, this is not a grievous flaw or deficiency in me, but I am, at my best and at my worst, I am self-obsessed, and in general there are qualities that are attributed to me that I have come, after many years of work on myself, to believe are true. The really nice things that people say about me, they're true.
What are they?
Well, if you have a friend in me, then you've got somebody who has your back, and I will step up for you. But I spent many years as a not well guy, and I carry the sort of scars from that. Trying to, in the Newhart years were examples of that. Bosom Buddies years were examples of that.
What was going on?
Well, I wasn't sober, So you'll hear other people who are in recovery talking about that wreckage of the past, and my older children did not get to have the father that my younger children have, and I'll never be able to cover all that distance, pick up all that slack, and repair all of that. In fact, it would be arrogant, presumptuous to me to think that I could. But you do what you can in the present, and to live in the past is another form of vanity. So I keep an eye on that. In fact, some would say that self-loathing is one of the greatest loves, of all. And
that's interesting. Self-loathing is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give into it. But if you're truly vain, as most actors are, you're struggling with opposite sides of the same coin. You're struggling with a grandiosity and a big ego, and with terribly problematic low self-esteem.
So do you think that's why a lot of actors go into acting, is because of that second part?
I never used to think so. I used to think, oh, that's such a cliche. You're in show business because you had a troubled childhood, and you're trying to get all the gratification and praise and love that you never got in your family. Oh, that's nonsense. Until I reached a certain age, and I came to believe that it was true.
What changed your mind?
Well, getting to know myself.
So back then you didn't realize that you were one of those examples.
A little better. But you talk about Tom Hanks, he's known all, and I know Tom in all of his, sort of incarnations, all in this lifetime. I know them all. and he knows all of mine. I mean, we were very close in the Bosom Buddies era, and I'm not suggesting, for a minute that over the last 35 years or more that we have always been close. But the thing that is true is that when we do connect and the timer gets out past a minute or two, something extraordinary happens, and we trust each other, and we love each other. Again, we don't go out to dinners and hang out. He comes to town. He can come in and out of town. I'll never know he was here if I'm not paying attention.
But there's something.
But I just recorded something, a book on tape for something that he's written, an excerpt from this book that that is coming out. The writing is staggeringly.
Yeah, he's an incredible writer too, right? Super
ridiculous.
talented.
It's ridiculous how gifted he is as a writer. But anyway, we recorded, Cecily Strong and Peter Garrity, Holland Taylor and myself recorded one of the stories as a book on tape.
What was going on then when you started drinking? What was that, like Bosom Buddies years or something? Or were you drinking already when you were like a teenager?
I started a little early. I lost my dad when I was 20, and I went into a very, very, very dark spell of drinking and using pills and other substances, and I was by the time I booked Bosom Buddies, I was a very sick guy, and by the end of the second season, I was in a lot of trouble, and there was nobody in my life to take me aside and say, you're in a lot of trouble, and the addicts will tell you it's not even something we think about. I mean, you blacked out, you nearly froze to death in your apartment in 80-degree weather, and you're shivering in front of a space heater, and you've got the hot bath running, so you don't run out of breath. Yeah. And then you get through that, and you go to sleep, or you stay up late, or you do whatever you do, and you do it all over again. It's a miserable, deadly disease.
Does it run in your family?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Your father?
No. My dad had other problems, but my mom passed just a few years ago and she would have been celebrating 45 years of continuous sobriety. So there's someone who got sober in my family.
Major. Yeah. So but then when you were that young, was she drinking when you were growing up? Or?
I was very, in some really difficult times in my life as a child, she was active. Yeah. She got sober when I was 13.
So when there were difficult periods in your life, was that because she was?
It was not a good. It was a really. And again, you don't know, you're a kid, but it was a really, really terrible, terrible affair. And my dad was struggling with her terribly and with his own rage. So I had a raging father and an alcoholic mother. And there's just no safe place. And you have these passages and these periods of time when you're in heaven because there's nobody yelling and everybody seems to be getting along. But it's a false, sort of model, because that's just a lull.
And you didn't feel like you were just waiting for the other shoe to drop at that point?
Well, you're a kid, so grown-ups will tell you that as a kid, I thought all of that was normal. I thought every kid is terrified, at least 3 or 4 times a week, just scared witless and not able to feel, their voice and their, unable to speak, and, with your skin just radiating a kind of prickly heat, just of shame and guilt and fear. You just think, well, that's the way it is. And my parents divorced when I was 16, so that created a new paradigm, and where everybody split up. My sister and youngest brother lived with my mom. My close brother, close in age, and I lived with my dad. And
why was that, I wonder?
I'm not sure. I mean, I was given a choice.
Okay. You chose your dad.
I did, mostly because I knew I'd get a car in the deal. I'd get his car that he was sort of giving up, I always got along fantastically well with my mom, but never felt, that I had her as a mom. And if she'd lived a little longer, I think we were right on the verge, because of my sobriety, I think we were on the verge of talking about all of that.
So when did you start drinking then?
I was, in earnest, I was 19.
19.
My dad was still alive.
And quickly
I was in college.
things progressed?
The alcoholics will tell you that, there comes this moment in time and you're just off to the races. It's not a slow thing. Sometimes it's misunderstood, the idea that an alcoholic is drinking vast quantities suddenly and uncontrollably. Alcoholism is, I think, more clearly understood as when you look at the effect that one drink has, that it in fact creates this dynamic psychic sort of turnabout. The effect of one drink, which sets up this phenomenon of craving, is alcohol. Is a huge part of how the alcoholic can be diagnosed. We also consider it to be if you're going to get well, you have to diagnose yourself and admit it.
So
how did we get on all of this? I thought we were talking about my career.
There's more to your career than just what you're doing on screen.
You know what? Where I've been in my career, and it's only been personal. In my most successful times and in the down times, it's always just been a very personal affair.
I'll also tell you that I was a therapist before.
Oh, that's how you do it.
So,
isn't that funny?
I'm interested in the human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're deep, we run deep.
You might be surprised, no, probably not surprised to hear that I see actors who've had more commercial success, by far than anything I've ever known, although I've had a nice career. And sometimes I feel for them. Isn't that wild? I just feel like, gee, I'm not so sure you're connected to anything meaningful. I think you're living this career out as though the career, your movie stardom, your series stardom, whatever it is actually your life. And I've been blessed with an alternative, sort of understanding of things, which is that is distinctly not your life. That is, something that's happening that is commercial and it's business. And you may have some fame or notoriety for it. I have some, but that ain't your life.
And you always felt that way?
No.
When did it shift?
When I was really in the height of my sickness, you might say, I thought all of that was really important. I didn't get well until I was 48 years old. I'm 62 now.
When you say you weren't well, so this is drinking specifically, and using whatever drugs you were using.
Other pieces of the puzzle.
Is there mental illness or mental health issue?
Yes, you know she was going to come around to it. I'm looking at my son as we speak. You knew she'd catch on. She was a therapist. What do I owe you for this? You take insurance?
Why would I take insurance?
Yeah, you can't make any money. I was diagnosed bipolar about 15 years ago. That's when I was able to I started getting treated.
How did that come about?
Well, I had some very bad events, and at that point in time, I would have really had to have been aggressively in denial. In denial, the likes of which, would be taking me to an end point very quickly. And mercifully, that was not the case. I had some terrible events, and I said, "Oh my, this can't be right." And I went and I saw a psychiatrist, and he did a 4-hour intake, and he tricked me. He diagnosed me as a bipolar guy, and I felt tremendous relief. I'm going to put me on some medicine and everything else, and he asked me a lot of questions about drinking and using substances, and I said, "Why, you keep coming back to this? Why? I mean, do you think I'm an alcoholic?" And he didn't say anything. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, you're a sly one, aren't you?" I said, "Do you think I'm an alcoholic?" And he said, "Do you think you're an alcoholic?" And then I knew I'd been had.
You never before that day thought you might be an alcoholic?
No.
For all those years?
Well, let me qualify that. Let me amend that ever so slightly. I didn't care.
Okay, because there had to be certain things that you came up against and then quickly shut down from or ignored, right?
That's what you do. You let something come up that, above the surface just long enough to play whack-a-mole and go, yeah, smash. Knock it down, get it out of here. I don't want to talk about it. It's not important. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Famous last words.
Sometimes. Famous last words. All through the years, I thought I'm passionate. You know, I have deep-seated passion. I have rage. I have, you know, that's how I know myself. I'm fierce, and I'm a fighter, and I'm a scrap. You know, all this sort of romanticized, you know,
your feelings,
defects of character is what, you know, what was really going on is that I was really a, you know, defective, you know, a guy who was really sick. And when he said you're bipolar, suddenly I thought, you know, depression is a flaw in chemistry, not character. I used to be on the side of a building on 72nd Street, and I thought, oh my, boy, I've missed this. I felt like Alec Guinness, you know, looking at the bridge on the River Kwai at the end, you know, realizing that he had missed everything. I mean, I just thought, what have I done? I have children. I have children.
How old were your children?
These guys were 3 and a half and 1 and a half, almost 4 and 2. Yeah, and you know, I saw it in them. They'll never know because they were too young. But I saw you know, how sick I was in their eyes one night. You know, that took me out. That took me out.
So,
like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Were you self-medicating the bipolar disorder, do you think?
Yes, that's what we do. That's how it works.
So when the emotions went up or they went down, you were taking care of it?
The substances are there for when you're feeling manic to come down, when you're feeling depressed to come up, and when you're somewhat, you know, disconnected from everything else in the middle, and you don't feel up or down or anything else, just to have something to do. The abject terror is just being alone with yourself and being as you are. You know, people who get sober really struggle in the early stages and thereafter sometimes, because suddenly there's nothing between them and their feelings anymore.
Right, and they've been burying them or hiding from them for a long time.
We've been medicating something.
So how do you work that out then?
Well, I'm in a program. You know, I work very, very hard.
So you do therapy and medication?
I do. I have therapy. I take medication for my bipolar syndrome, which is not an antidepressant in the best cases. You know, it's actually an anti-seizure, atypical anti-epileptic medication.
So as a mood stabilizer?
It's not quite a mood stabilizer, technically. There's another medication I take that's
a mood stabilizer.
More specific to that. And yeah, and I work in a 12-step program.
So you're actively managing this.
I'm very active, yeah.
And that's why you are where you are now, feeling. I mean, you can tell your perspective has come a long way.
A long, long way. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a good place now?
Yes, never better.
And it's gotten better and better and better since that day in the psychiatrist's office?
It's been rocky. It's been rough. You know, you've got stuff, wreckage, you know, stuff that you've left behind, and then you suddenly look back and go, wow, I guess that's my life. What's behind me is what happens when somebody is, you know, asleep at the wheel and living this, you know, unfortunate life. You know, and I had success and making a lot of money and houses and cars and Emmy nominations and all kinds of things.
Some good things have come to you after you started recovery.
Indeed.
And you said that you feel like you became a better actor.
Yes, I know.
After this stuff.
Yes, indeed. You know, when I work with newcomers and we're talking about, you know, a musician or a stand-up comic or an actor, and they say, I'm just afraid if I do this sober thing, I'm going to lose my creative edge. And I go, well, guess again.
Did you worry about that too?
And I say, do I have to trot out the Emmy for you? Do I have to bring it to our next meeting and show it to you?
But did you worry about it when you first?
No.
You didn't worry about that?
No.
You just knew it was time and you needed help?
I was in very, very bad shape. I was like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't care. I don't care. I have got to find a way to save my life, you know.
Rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were married at the time? Were you alone? What was going on?
Yes, I was.
So the kids were, this is before the kids were, these kids were born?
No, these kids were...
Because they were little when you...
Yeah, Keaton's 18. My daughter Callie is 16. And I've been sober about 14 and a half years.
Okay, right. So they were little when this turnaround came. But before that, when nobody was calling you out and you weren't calling yourself out, you had older kids.
Yes.
Who were young at the time?
No, they were teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
Did they call you out at all?
No.
They never.
I left. I divorced their mom, and
okay.
you know, pulled a geographic move and left California, and you know, went on the road and with a national tour and then a Broadway show. And, but I was, you know, in a very bad way.
So that was like was that the lowest point almost?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I was the straightest. I didn't say this before, so it's not actually an again.
It's not.
That's what
an off pod. Again. Okay.
Pundits
what do they
do
say?
that all the time. Again, this is what we understand to be true, and they haven't said anything before in relationship to the thing that they're saying again.
So it's just like a. It's like an.
That's like at the end of the day. We really what day? When
the bottom line is.
When does that happen? I like at the end of the day. Yeah, the bottom line is, you know, when the rubber meets the road.
Long story short.
But I was really a straight kid, and you know, not because I knew of my mother's alcoholism. I just was an athlete. I was an athlete scholar, and I really prided myself on that. So I drank once or twice, you know, in my senior year in high school. But I wasn't going to be, you know, didn't think I was heading anywhere with it. I didn't need to drink again when I drank. What happened is I got to college, and somebody that I really admired, a graduate student that I was working with, he got me high one night. You ever smoked weed before, Pete? You know, I said, hell no. It had been all around me. Mind you, I had come up in the hippie generation. I'd been a camp counselor in Maine. I knew, you know, kids from the suburbs of Boston and Western Mass. I mean, drugs and alcohol and marijuana were everywhere, and I was like, no thank you, I get high on life and being fast or athletic, or you know. And the hippies loved me. It's all right, man, he's cool, you
need to play a part like that. That was just hilarious, just so you know.
You know, he's cool. I had hippie friends who would vouch for me, you know.
Yeah.
Because hippies had a cachet in high school and college that superseded the cachet of any athlete. You know, like I could kick anybody's ass within, you know, 6 inches of my height and 30 pounds of my weight. I could. But I would have to sort of be, I would have to accept my lower status among hippies because they were cool.
That was just that was the time.
You know, being a jock in 1971 was like sort of low caste. It's like, seriously? You know, you going to football practice, man? Yeah. And you felt low. You felt like less than. You felt like some weird Republican in 1971. This was also the Watergate, you know, the beginnings of the Watergate scandal in 71.
But you tried it that one time finally.
Well, what happened
and that was like
I was 19 in college.
Where was college?
I went to Occidental College in Eagle Rock, California, which was Obama's alma mater before I think he went on to Columbia and Harvard. So I had tremendous cachet suddenly at Occidental College as a theater major because I was from New York and everybody thought I was the edgiest guy they'd ever seen. And I was like, I even like affected my speech a little bit, and I put on a little, you know, there was just a little bit of, I did a little bit of a New York accent, even though I didn't really have one. Oh, you're so cool. And so I, you know, became a hot shot in the theater department, and then I got high, and that was it. Within a month, I was like, I gotta get more weed. I hooked up with a guy at a party, and we were, you know, we became pals. We drank a gallon of Gallo Burgundy at a party, a gallon, and got so violently sick, and then couldn't wait to do it again. A year later, I was very successful off-Broadway in New York with a really cool theater company that spawned, you know, and involved the careers of Jeff Goldblum and Danny DeVito and my friend Michael O'Keefe, who I see now and then, you know, who was later Oscar nominated for The Great Santini. And I was at the ground level, the, you know, sort of the base camp of this theater company going through the roof off-Broadway. And again, I was extremely cool kid, doing massive amounts of marijuana and drinking heavily and every single night, you know. And then my dad died, you know, right in the midst of this huge early success. My dad's heart exploded and suddenly he was gone. So I entered into a depression that lasted 25 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
So what's your life like now? So you live in New York. Mm-hmm. You're recently married, somewhat recently?
Well, we've been together almost 13 years.
Okay.
We were recently married.
And your wife's name is Tracy?
Shade. Tracy was a long-running Christine in Phantom. She was in one of the early Broadway companies of Chorus Line for 4 or 5 years, and she played Roxy in Chicago. She was the second Cosette in Les Mis on Broadway. And you know, was in a career transition. It's hard. It's hard. You know, it's hard for me. I need to make more money than I want to make. I could do without that sort of obligation, or so I can't just, you know, my career is solid enough that I could work year-round in the theater and get out and do the independent film here and there, and television episodic here and there, but I can't. I have to compete for better paying jobs to pay down a lot of debt. So it's very challenging.
What kind of debt is it?
Well, a lot of it connects to what we've been talking about, you know, for a while, just things not getting taken care of properly, IRS debt, and family debt, you might say, and that's very challenging.
So it's like you can't even get ahead of it at all? Or you can't chip away at it, feels like?
I'm doing
slowly.
Some nice chipping away, but it's very challenging and disturbing. I mean, how do you get to, you know, I had to ask myself 5-6 years ago, how am I going to improve as an actor? It sounds like a grandiose statement, and I'd ask that your audience disqualify that judgment. I don't mean it in a grand way. I thought at 56, I'm about to go do the pilot for this show, Girls. How am I gonna? I don't know how to get more skill. I'm 37 years doing this.
But why did you think you needed more skill at that point?
It was an instinct that I had. I thought I've got to dig deeper.
Okay, so go to the next level.
Yeah. And what I started to do on the set of Girls right away was to stop acting. Now you cannot stop, you know, an experienced actor from acting. So technically it can't be done. But what I did was I shut down all the autopilot stuff and said, no, you know, stop it, everybody, stop. Stop doing good line readings. Stop, you know, being in character. Stop it. And let's see what happens. I learned my lines, but I just declined to plan a performance because I was too seasoned and too practiced, and I didn't trust myself. I thought, you're just going to do what you're good at. And you know, it led to the best work of my career. And I carried it over. Ultimately, the best work I've ever done, I did a year ago on a miniseries for ABC. I played Bernie Madoff's younger brother to Richard Dreyfuss's Bernie Madoff. He was so brilliant.
You felt like that was the best work that you've done?
It was the best work I've ever done because I just sat inside of it and waited until behavior
came out.
The great ones, and I don't include myself in their company necessarily because I've yet to prove it.
So who are they?
But you know, like you take an Alfre Woodard or a Gary Oldman or a Tom Hanks. You know, I know he's not acting because I'd catch him. You look at Road to Perdition, which I've seen, you know, on cable in the past few weeks. It's run a few times, and I just lean in and look at it, and I go, look at this performance. Not an acted moment in it. Just inhabiting a character truthfully. Just living inside that with this sublime trust.
Do you watch TV?
Yes, sure.
What do you like?
Well, we're learning, my wife and I are learning how to binge watch.
You're learning how to binge watch?
We just finished the OA, which is a Brit Marling series, and I'm a great admirer of that young lady's work. She did a movie called Another Earth, which just killed me.
Okay.
Killed me. So stunning and painful and beautiful.
So you like to feel when you're watching something?
I like to try not to and see how that works out.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't, I no longer at my age cry at, at commercials with cute puppies. I've been through that phase in my life.
What makes you cry now?
Or cancer survivor commercials, which are meaningful and important. But now when when somebody speaks a truth and I didn't see it coming, I'm like, God damn it, I'm not going to win this battle, so I get choked up. But I'm at a somewhat uptight phase in my life right now. To be
uptight?
Quiet. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
What do you mean?
I don't know, I've experienced such deep emotion in my life, and I'd be worried if I didn't feel that as an undercurrent. But I'm a little prideful, maybe shy. I don't want to give it up to what? Who? My wife, my son, if I see him or his sister do something meaningful, I get choked up, and I don't know. Right now, just now, October 10th, I'm a little. I pull it in. I can master my emotion a little bit and not just become this weeping Italian American dad. But I have been that. When I saw him perform, Keaton played Tulsa in Gypsy at the LaGuardia School of Music and Art and Performing Arts last spring, and I lost it. I was in very bad shape, so much so that I had to kind of pull it together so that I could continue to watch the performance.
Did he make a scene? Like, did you know about this?
Oh, he couldn't have seen it.
Oh, okay. So it was just you.
He was on stage.
Yeah. So it wasn't it was to yourself.
But it had to do with, what I know. It's, has gone into him dealing with some of his stuff and the work ethic. I know how hard he worked to get there. I don't know why that is. Something about us Scolaris. You talk to my brothers, my sister, you talk to my older sons, Nick and Joe. I don't know why, but in this lifetime we have to work time and a half harder than our peers. We just do. I mean, people might think I've had this, fantastic run of, career success. It hasn't been like that. I am complimented and plagued by the perception that, like I'm a recent Emmy Award winner, and I'm known from a TV series in every decade. But I have really struggled. People think I'm working all the time. I'm not, and it's very challenging, because even now at my age, I have to work hard. I have to keep pushing buttons and showing up and auditioning for things and giving up on work that I'd rather be doing to make sure that I'm pushing the career forward. In fairness, most actors would kill to have my career and my cachet. They would, but I'm not done. I'm in a very aggressive state about all of that. I feel like I have a lot left to prove, because unbeknownst to me, 5-6 years ago, I found out working on Girls that I had a lot more growth that's in the offing. Now I have to go stake a claim to it, and I have to, as does my son and my daughter, everyone else in my damn family. We all have to work. My wife who's had an incredible career, has to work hard to keep it and to move it forward.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that, but there is, I think, for so many people, so much more work that goes on behind the scenes to make what you see on the surface.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's hard.
Where do you want to go next?
I want to be back in television. I mean, every, actor friends who admire me and respect me, and and we are peers and have worked together. Some of us, others not. They all think I belong in feature films, and I have had a terrible career in feature films, and that's okay. I really want to be back in television. I want to be in your damn living room. I want to be on your Netflix, on your Hulu, on your Sci-Fi, and your Bravo, on your AMC. I want you to binge watch me next year. And I had a little taste of it in Girls, and I have not. It has not lost its, sort of excitement for me. That's what I want.
Why do you love it?
There was a template that we laid down years ago talking about the difference, and it's changed because now film actors are in your living room. But back in the day, I remember running into Jon Voight at the airport, and he was uncharacteristically generous with people who approached him, and people approached him. This was about 1982, 84. And we talked about it, and he said something along the lines of, because he said, I've seen you. He wanted to give that to me. And I said, yeah, I'm do this TV series, Bosom Buddies. And he said, I admire you TV actors because you're trustworthy enough that you can be in people's living rooms every week. He says, but us film actors, people think we're larger than life because when they see us, we're 20 feet tall. And I thought in that moment that he has made a decision, a personal decision, to let people into his personal space. And I've come across many film actors over the years since then. No disrespect to them, but you feel the energy coming off of them. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I'm really not going to be, you're going to make me uncomfortable, and you'll feel uncomfortable in return because I'm not doing this. I'm not having it, or I'm not good at it, or any number of explanations. If you walk the streets of New York with me for 20 blocks, we'd get stopped. And I get stopped when I'm in a career slump and nothing is going on. Oh, I love you on this, I loved you on that in 1982 and 1996 and 2008. What are you doing now? What's next for you? Oh, any goddamn thing I can get my hands on, to be honest with you. And sometimes I even tell people the truth, but not always. Because, that can kind of wrinkle the cardboard a little bit.
Yeah.
You can never get it right back into the same shape. But I want to be back in people's living room. I had Girls for 6 years. HBO shows run, rerun and rerun over and over again. So people think you're on TV like 6 times a month, and sometimes you are. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
I want that. I feel like I've earned it. I almost booked a really fun Broadway show in the spring. A few weeks later, I almost booked a big television pilot. Neither of them went my way. So that's my life now, that I'm in the running for some fantastic things frequently, but I have to score them. I have to compete for them. I have to win them.
And you wish at this point you didn't have to.
I wish.
Yeah, that they would just be handed to you.
But I have to tell you, honestly, I'm also convinced, alternatively, of another, we're in a world of alternative facts and reality. But alternatively, I think what sponsors or funds my growth is this thing we're almost talking about as an adversity, as obstacles. I think I think I've figured some things out at my age, and not a moment too soon, about how to, make that work for me. You make something hard for me to get, well, guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be getting better. Mm-hmm. I'm coming after. I've learned it. This year, as much as at any other time in my life, I am a scrapper. If you put your hand up to stop me, I'm going to find a way through. I'm coming after you. I'm not going to quit.
I think that is a quality that not a whole lot of people have. And either you have that or you don't have it, and that's what gets people places.
Yeah, you give that up.
To
Winston
be a scrapper.
Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. The other thing that I share with my kids is, there is no way around your fear. Everything you want is on the other side of your fear. So you're going to have to go through it. No trapdoor, you know, no hoist, no airlift, no, sorry.
But then you'll be there and you'll never have it blocking your way again.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, on a good day, with exceptions.
I don't know.
You ready for the speed round?
Oh, I didn't know there was a speed round.
This is a speed round where you don't have to think very much.
Yeah,
and then we'll wrap it up.
Good luck with that.
All right. You're a thinker. You just can't help it.
Well, I do help it. I work on it so that I don't think too much.
I mean, it's an advantage and a disadvantage.
That is correct.
It's a gift and a curse.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
First thing I do when I wake up is...
Coffee.
A weird habit I have is...
Daydreaming.
When I'm home alone and nobody else is around, I will...
Pray and meditate.
One thing I can't shake is...
My heartache.
I have a weird relationship with...
Myself.
Yourself.
Yes.
Can we go back to heartache for a second?
Sure.
Can you tell me about it?
I don't particularly, part of the reason I can't shake it is because I don't want to. You know, when I'm talking about grief, or you know, regret and remorse and the like, what I don't want is to be ruled by them. But I don't need to. I no longer believe that they need to be excised or exorcised, pushed out, recovered from. I don't want to give up. It's a part of my.
They're part of you.
Part of my humanity. It's my opinion that there are parts of my heart that are broken. You know, it's a conviction. You know, and it was either somewhere between Oscar Wilde and Tom Waits that it was written that, you know, if I exorcise my devils, well, my angels may leave too. I believe in this thing that Gilda Radner spoke about on her deathbed. You know, she talked about life is not knowing, you know, what to do next, even what matters. And she sort of wrapped up her philosophy in talking about something called delicious ambiguity, not knowing what's going to happen next and being okay with that. So my heartbreak is part of what defines me.
When I'm walking around the streets of Manhattan, I think about
my father a lot. A lot.
If there's a movie made about my life, I would love to be played by...
Probably somebody like Andrew Garfield. The boy's got some serious humanity. My goodness.
Your last question is, who is Peter Scolari?
Who? See, my inclination is to answer what?
Be my guest.
Oh, I didn't mean to. That's like getting to reprogram the computer to test you on what you want to be tested on. I am your friend. Nothing else. I have no greater sort of pursuit in my life than to be faithful and trustworthy and, you know, worth your time, to have your back. You know, there's not a better accomplishment on the day. There might be this fantastic scene that I've acted on Broadway, or, you know, acted in front of a camera the other day, and that's swell, you know, but that's not the pinnacle for me. The pinnacle is, wow, not a putz, you know, not a schmuck. And you know what he said to me? He said something that really helped me with, you know, because he spoke about his own experience. You know, that's what we do in our, I don't have too many original ideas. People who listen to this might think that there's a lot of original thinking going on here, but mostly it's my appropriation of incredibly valuable things that have been shared with me. You see the difference? Mm-hmm. It's important that
You've absorbed this.
Don't cut out that disclaimer.
Okay.
Not that you would.
So the disclaimer is important.
It is very important to me, you know,
Okay.
because sometimes people confuse my, you know, personal philosophy for this ingenious creation, you know, this thing of my own making. I have appropriated and made use out of some fantastic things that have been said to me.
From other sources.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we get to the essential you?
I'm afraid so.
That was Peter Scolari in 2017. I'm Kara. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you very soon.